Hello and well met, folks. This is Layman with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I am going to take a look at the newer updated NPC import tool for the 5e rule set. So this was recently released like on the 8th, so just a couple days ago. I haven't had a chance to really check it out fully. Last night preparing for the show, I did make some notes and I did try it out. And it seems to be working pretty good. So the main takeaway that a lot of people don't maybe not understand if you haven't done this before is that the format of the text is very critical. I've done other shows on this, and basically it comes down to how the text is actually arranged. So I've went ahead and did some copying and pasting from D&D Beyond, fully knowing that these stat blocks are not the final version, so they are going to essentially be from an adventure that was on the D&D Beyond website. It was a freebie that you could claim. I think it was something to do with Uni, the unicorn, and the old D&D cartoon. But nonetheless, these are some examples of the stat block. And I think the main changes that I'm noticing is you have stat blocks are written differently now. You have mod, save, and then you have the first three stats. And then to the right of that is the ability score, the modifier, and the save. So that's a different arrangement than what we were used to before. If you've used the previous version or the legacy version of 5e, that's the main change that I noticed. There are some other subtle changes, such as they put this initiative up here with the this bonus, proficiency bonus, and then they have it included here. And then there's some things like, I don't think this traits needs to actually be there because that's not on the new stat blocks, even though there's traits listed there. So I don't think that's entirely necessary, but it might be for the parsing tool for Fantasy Grounds. But then most of the actions are in the actions area. And I also did a spellcaster coming from D&D Beyond just to kind of see how it worked. And it worked pretty good. I didn't have too many issues, but again, those are just some subtle changes that you'll notice. And here's a good example of the stat block. So there's actions here, multi-attack, arcane burst, spellcasting, their at-will spells, and then the reactions after that. So this is basically a newer kind of format that you would expect to see in the Fantasy Grounds version for the import tool. So I want to show you, I'm going to do live, I'm going to try out another type of stat block that I generated with ChatGPT. So this is a Vampiress, and I'm going to use this stat block to basically showcase or show how the import tool works. So I'm going to copy and paste the stat block, and this is done in accordance to the newer format. So I went back and did some research, did some copy and pasting. I made my own template for this type of thing. So if you're going to use an AI generative tool, I recommend that you make a template with some examples and a little bit of data so that it understands, you know, what you're trying to achieve. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into the tool. So when you want to use the import tool, there is a little hamburger menu on the bottom of the NPC record. So if you pop that open, this thing here will pop open in the center. On the left-hand side is where your stat block needs to go. So I'm going to hit Control V. I'm going to paste the data in here. And as you can see, all this data is been copied and pasted over. I'm going to right click and go to clean up text just so I can get a preview of what this will look like when it's imported. And like I said, there's traits listed here, but I don't think that'll break the import, because on some stat blocks there are no traits, and then you don't see the word traits on the newer stat blocks, but you do see the word action, so that does need to be there. And then of course you have all your different attacks and your different things here. This would be necessary if you were going to you know, add your own attacks. All this stuff has to be worded properly. And then over here on the right, I'm going to copy and paste some backstories for her. Basically, this is for her lore, and this is stuff that, that I include in my own NPC stat blocks. You don't have to do this, but basically she has like a back section, and this would have her gear, her appearance, that sort of thing. So I changed her lore a little bit, and then I changed some of her appearance too. So this stuff here is going to be copy and pasted on the right hand side. So that's where your story goes. So I'm going to copy and paste her lore, and I know some of you just want me to get to the part that that you need, but this is her lore, and we'll just say she's a Vampiress Warrior. And the reason I give you this extra stuff so you have some context and not just the data, because I know that I could just say, okay, here's how you do it and move on. But there's a little more to it than just that, and I'm going to show that. So I'm formatting this text over here ahead of time so I don't have to do it later. And then so I added her lore here, and then she has some tactics too. So I'm going to take that and update it. So her tactics, I'm going to copy and paste that and put that in here. So this is if you were going to run this NPC, you'd have some idea as to how to run it. And this is helpful if you're newer to the game and you haven't touched this particular NPC, especially if it's like a story NPC, not just necessarily like a minion. It really helps to have some information. So basically, she used to be a valiant warrior. She was a vampiress only by fate. She was gravely wounded on a massive battlefield, so she was a warrior. She lay dying. A group of kind of lesser vampires started to feed on they're feasting on the fallen soldiers. She was bitten, but through sheer luck and desperation, she managed to slay her attackers before succumbing to death. She managed to kind of survive, and she kind of went unconscious for a while. But when she woke up again, she basically noticed something was different, and she had succumbed to a curse of vampirism. So she retained most of her combat skills for the time being, and she uses the fights to kind of control her bloodlust. And she's kind of haunted by this battlefield that she was once a part of. So she's got this dark kind of background. But she uses stealth to ambush enemies. She strikes swiftly with her short sword and claws. She prefers to weaken opponents with her bite and restore her vitality through necrotic damage, retreating to her higher ground when necessary. So she's not a straight-up fighter anymore. And she's really kind of tough and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so this is the information that I added, and over here on the left is a stat block, and let's see if it happens. Maybe it'll blow up in my face. We'll find out. Yeah, so far it's blown up in my face. What do you know? So I have something wrong here. So there's got to be something silly. Let's see. So this part looks right. It's just the stats themselves don't quite line up. So that's the sort of thing that you'll have to deal with when you're doing this. And then what I noticed is down here at the bottom, very important, you have to change the import mode. So that's where I went wrong. So that's one thing I wanted to discuss here, was that there are different import modes. You have the 2022 Monsters of the Multiverse mode. You have the 2024 D&D Beyond format, and then the 2024 D&D core rules, which is like the free rules that they gave out initially for people to preview. So you have to pick your source. So I will try that again. So I'm going to go to D&D Beyond this time, and it's good to notice that, because before you import, you want to make sure you have the correct mode selected. So that's where I went wrong. And then I want to go ahead and open up, and right here, this Vampiress Warrior, it was mostly right except for the stats. So now what I'm going to do is, I can go back through here again, and I'll be able to re-import it, but using the correct filter. So this helps with the parsing. So if you have different sources, that's what this is for. I imagine they'll clean this up once the rule set is finalized, but for the time being, there's 3 different import modes depending on your source. You can still go and make your own NPCs by hand entering stuff, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So, yes, D&D Beyond is the source. Now hit import, and we'll see what it looks like. Yeah, so what I was looking at before was that this stuff here, the actual stats didn't come across properly, but everything else looks correct. And it looks like it's right this time just by changing the import mode. And then on the notes tab, this is where all that extra stuff is, plus there's this nice summary in the back here. And then if you have any artwork, which I am working on some, I have a picture that I might use. I'm not going to get into that, but if you're going to make custom NPCs, you're going to get these letters instead of your artwork, or you can use something in Fantasy Grounds to represent your custom NPCs, but there's your token, and if you have the 3D camera art, and then you can have a full-length picture here if you want. So I'm probably going to add this image here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Let me close this import, and I'll bring that out, I guess, so you guys can see that if you want. And I guess you can see it in the preview window. So this is basically the stat block, or the artwork for the stat block that I was considering. It almost kind of reminds me of Blood Rain, if you guys remember, or that kind of that vampire chick. I don't remember the exact details of it, but I think there was a video game and all that stuff. But anyway, so Vampire Sorceress, or Vampire Warrior S, and this is all the different things that she has. So it works out pretty good. So let me go put this there, and then to test it out, we'll drag and drop it onto the combat tracker. And what this is going to show is that the regen is working. We go to the offense button, and all of her traits are here. So this is what you want to see. So she has a visceral short sword. It does 1d6 plus 4 piercing, plus an additional necrotic damage. And then she has her unarmed strikes, her bite, and some of her vampire stuff, spider climb, vampire weaknesses, that sort of thing. So it looks like it turned out really good. So just remember to switch the import mode on the bottom of the tool. So when you open this up, make sure you switch this out each time, because I think it reset. So if I close this and I reopen it, yeah, it's going to reset the import mode. I hope they can change that, because if you're going to do a whole bunch of them from one source, that'll drive you nuts. Hopefully they can change that to where it will just stay on the last one you used. That would be helpful. But anyway, so this is just a little caveat here. The stat blocks that I tested this on were from D&D Beyond, and they were not finalized versions. So these may not even be the final versions. And that's one of the things you need to realize is when you start using the tool before the rule set's done, and you do a whole bunch of work, and then you find out that they changed some stuff around, it's gonna kind of piss you off. So be careful with that. I wouldn't go too crazy with it until the official the official monster manual comes out in February, and then we'll have an actual idea of what's going on. But I think Smiteworks got this tool up and ready, anticipating the workload that they're going to have in front of them when that's released to them. So I'm certain that that's probably the only reason they did this, was so they have that tool ready for themselves. I am going to request that they change that toggle for the import tool. I don't know if they can make it stay on the last one you used, but that would be really helpful. But nonetheless, I think it works pretty good. I think I'll call it. I don't want to bore you guys too much longer with the stuff, but basically that's the new tool that they've changed. And the main changes that are the way that the ability scores are laid out. Matter of fact, I'll show you my my notes here. So this is the stat block format. So this is what it kind of looks like on the screen, because you'll have mod save. I mean, it's kind of the way it looks like in the stat block. But when you copy and paste it from D&D Beyond, it's going to look like this. It'll have the mod and save, and I'll have 3 sets of data here, mod and save, and then 3 sets of data here. So that's the main difference. There are other subtle differences, but those are the ones I noticed so far. And then, of course, some of these have been changed around, like this thing here is a little different. Your proficiency bonus is included here. And another thing I noticed was this AC and initiative number here was also added, and your initiative score. I don't remember what this 12 is, but nonetheless, that's the changes that I've seen. Common and any 3 languages. So if you wanted to, you'd want to change that before you import it. So I do suggest if you have a random stat block, like from an older source, you're going to want to update it to this format here, and then it will help with the parsing. Otherwise, it's going to drive you bananas. So take a look at a newer stat block from the Player's Handbook on D&D Beyond, or look at the free adventure that they released. I don't remember the name of it, but it's something to do with Uni, the unicorn, and that will have the stat blocks in there too, for kind of like for reference. But I use my own with ChatGPT. I gave it a copy of this. So I exported this as a text file. So I think what I'll do is at the end of the video, I'll make a copy of the spellcaster, this Bullywug Sage or something like that, or maybe I'll use my personal one, because I don't want to copyright crap. But basically, because this is kind of unreleased to the public, I mean, it's for people that have D&D Beyond and stuff. So what I'm going to do is take the information that I have for the vampire and I'll post that, because that's going to be more helpful, I think, anyways, because it has more attack types. So I'll take a copy and paste of that, and I'll paste it into the video description at the end. So you guys take care. Hopefully that's a little bit helpful to you, and I'll kind of drag this on, but I'll let you guys go.